into the United States controlled bank accounts. And they've called for an investment of at least $100 billion from American energy companies to rebuild the nation's crumbling oil infrastructure. This is a powerful play of historic proportions because it promises to unleash a torrent of oil onto the global market, but it also opens a Pandora's box of risk. In tonight's show, we're going to break down exactly what happens during Operation Absolute Resolve. We'll explore the staggering decay of Venezuela's oil industry and rebuilding it. We'll identify the clear winners and losers across the economy, and most importantly, we'll be analyzing which big oil stocks are positioned in the right place to ride this wave and which ones could get swept away. Now, this is a story of how lightning raid uh, in the Carcass area could reshape the global order and define the next decade of American energy. So, to really get the magnitude of what's happening, we first need to understand how it all went down. Now, the capture of Nicolas Maduro wasn't a snap decision, it was the end result of months of meticulous planning, intelligence gathering, and a quiet military buildup in the Southern Caribbean that started back in August of 2025. And the operation, codenamed Absolute Resolve, involved a joint effort from the United States military and intelligence community, including Delta Force and 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the U.S. Cyber Command, and the CIA. Now, for months, the CIA had a team on the ground in Venezuela, tracking Maduro's movements, apparently with help from a source close to the president himself, the Judas of Venezuela. Delta Force operators rehearsed the mission relentlessly, even building a full scale mock up of the heavily guarded compound at Fort uh, Tuina in Caracas, where Maduro was thought to be. And just after January 2nd, 2 a.m., going into January 3rd, uh, local time, the operation went live. But this wasn't the shock and awe of past conflicts. Satellite imagery analysis shows the mission was laser focused instead of a widespread bombing campaign because they wanted the fucking oil. And the US military executed the series of surgical strikes with one goal: suppress Venezuelan air defense along the helicopter assault routes. Strikes hit communication hubs and air defense units, ensuring the main forces could get in and out clearly. And while the path was cleared, an assault force of elite special operations helicopters descended on Maduro's compound. And according to the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, the mission was a symphony of complexity involving a massive coordinated effort to create the element of surprise. And Maduro was reportedly trying to flee when U.S. troops apprehended him and his wife, uh, Celia Flores. And despite taking some fire, all American personnel and aircrafts returned safely that they report. So by 3:29 a.m., hour and a half later, Maduro was on his way to the USS Iowa Jima before being flown to New York to face federal uh, narco terrorism charges. Michael says, I think the president and his wife made a deal, and the targets are just a cover up to appear he was defying America. Now, that does make a lot of sense because technically, Michael, the way things work with the United States, they don't take hostages and they don't negotiate. Once they decide to release military forces, the target gets eliminated, the target's family gets eliminated, and the target's household gets eliminated, and and any witnesses to the event gets eliminated, including American soldiers. And nobody speaks of it because the people who are telling the story are the people who weren't even on the ground when the situation happened. That's usually how the Americans operate. So, if in fact we did strategically go over there, take very little, if any, lives, came back with all of these hostages and brought this guy to prison, probably he cut a deal, save face, and call himself defiant. And they'll buy that because it gives them a reason to say, he's a terrorist. It's like a geopolitical way of witness protection because, I mean, at least they're not going to kill him yet. But in the aftermath, Maduro's vice president, Delke Rodriguez, was sworn in as acting president, the snitch. And in a gesture to de escalate, 41 political prisoners were released. But let's be clear, the justification of the operation quickly pivoted from law enforcement to economics because the Trump administration openly stated that access to Venezuela's oil was a primary motive. That's the main reason why they went out there. Who cares about the hostages? We want the oil. Yeah, we can free the hostages after we get the oil. Oh yeah, we can make sure that they survive after we get the oil. That's what's going on. Uh, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Energy Secretary Chris White, and Vice President J.D. Vance all confirmed that the U.S. would now control and market the crude oil coming out of Venezuela. So the official White House face sheet was direct. The United States government has begun marketing Venezuelan crude oil, with all proceeds settling in United States controlled accounts to be dispersed at Washington's discretion. This wasn't just a regime change, it was a changing of the guards for the planet's largest oil reserves. Now, when Dylan first told me about this before, he was like, "Oh, Venezuela is free." Looked to me like they hostages to me because if they whatever they had going on over there, they didn't have what we're going through in Chicago over there. They didn't have what we got going on in Memphis over there. But now that we are over there, exactly what we got going on with ICE is exactly what they're going to get from the U.S. military for years to come. I don't think they got free. I think they got overrun. But that's just me talking because here in America, we have the freedom of speech. So I can say whatever I wants to say. And it's not like the CIA and FBI going to run up in my house and be like, "Oh, you're not supposed to talk about that." Because it's not like they're funding this podcast. And if they were, I would have a bigger reach. Either taking over Zenzanila was a good deal. Do you want China or Russia in the Western Hemisphere? America is open for business. Uh, all contracts with China and Russia is now voided. But that's what I was telling you yesterday. The contracts with China and Russia are voided with Venezuela. The contracts with China and Russia are not voided with the United States. The contract with TikTok is more likely to occur because anything that China wanted from Venezuela is going to now come from the United States. So not only does the United States have 170 million viewers worth of capital going into the TikTok platform, which is trillions of dollars, might we add. Now the United States has the oil that China wanted as well, and you also have the tariffs that could equivocally go all the way back up to 200%. So all of the ways that China is making money, the United States is controlling that, which makes it more fantastically capable for the United States to get that signage of that uh, 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 TikTok deal, so that the U.S. can make more than 50% of the trillions of dollars that's going to be available on TikTok. True, but China and Russia have to with America directly. Well, yeah, they would have to strike a deal with America. Well, not China. Russia would have to strike a deal with America directly, and Russia is on bad terms with America right now because Russia wouldn't stop messing up Ukraine with the precious minerals in Ukraine, and then China and Japan already have a tariff contract with the United States, so you know that any crude oil contract that's going to follow that is going to be incorporated into the TikTok deal. Because if the US doesn't get TikTok, then the United States is not going to do any other kind of business with China because the US wants TikTok. It's a multi-trillion-dollar business. 170 million out of 385,000, 385 million. That's a lot of people. That's more than half of the United States. So that's a lot of money that the US can pocket for the government going directly into the pockets of the government. That's a lot of money to have. Uh, he says, well, technically, Russia and China have been allies for some time. True, but that's got nothing to do with them having a deal with Venezuela. China is definitely our enemy, though. Not true. We don't agree politically, but we're not actually fighting each other. Okay, so the United States has true to life enemies, and those true to life look like North Korea. We don't do any business with our enemies. No, China is not an enemy. China is just somebody that does not agree with the president when the president is doing stuff that China doesn't agree with. Uh, affect China seems to be the enemy of the world by their actions. Well, actually, China has their way of doing things, and because China is the second strongest governmental force in the world next to the United States, economically speaking, at the very least, when China says do something, if people don't agree with that, usually China has more leverage. But unfortunately, with the United States has more leverage because all the profits that China is more of an export country and the United States is more of an import country. So the America benefits from what gets sent to America and sold. Other countries benefit from what gets sent out of their country and sold in America. And Americans are wasteful. So Americans will buy whatever every other country sends to America. But that does not mean that China is the enemy of everybody. China's not the enemy of everybody. The fact is that they're just very strict about their rules, and not too many people who like that when they come from a more freer country. And we have to recognize that disliking somebody's decisions doesn't make them an enemy. It just means that we don't like what they do and how they do it, including their own people. They follow the rules that are set out for them. Now their country is stricter than our country, all the way down to the crosswalks. Just because they're stricter doesn't mean that they're the enemy of their people. Yeah, but here's the thing: China engages in what's called planned uh, obsolescence, which is fifth generation warfare. Everything you buy in China breaks, and it is designed that way. But you got to recognize that America learned from them and started doing the same thing because the light bulb that used to be made by America used to be indestructible. Then we started changing to light bulbs that break after so many years, so many months, so much usage, so that we have to keep buying light bulbs. Televisions are not as durable as they used to be. Teslas are not as durable as they used to be. Teslas used to last 25, 30 years. Now they have a 3 to 5 year warranty on them, like every other vehicle. Cars are made to last 2 to 5 years. That's why the warranty only lasts 2 to 5 years. Yeah, they're good for 30 years if they're taken care of, or if they just set up and they're not used. But they're designed to break easier so that people spend more money on it. Everything in the house these days, the design flaw in most products is the faster it, the more you use it, the faster it breaks. They do that on purpose. German vehicles like Jetta were designed for longevity where they're not designed to break down for extensive usage, unlike Mustangs. When you think about the lifespan of a Jaguar, transmission lasts less than 50,000 miles, but a Jetta might last you 250 to 300,000 miles. Toyotas outlast Ford and Dodge. Regardless of how you look at it, it's an economic standpoint. So that doesn't really make China an enemy. It just means that they were smart about their business. Instead of making stuff that never breaks, where they make something that people want, and then they provide either an upgrade or a replacement for it. And they make the replacement cheaper than repairing the one that you have, so that you don't keep what you have and pay a repairman for parts. Get uh you instead get uh more stuff involved with the buying of new things. Let me catch up with some of these comments. He said in China also explicitly and purposely puts poisons in our food, water, and every beverage, etc., that we buy from them. Okay, so when we're talking about the Cold War from like 30 years ago, that might have been a thing, but also you have to understand they don't necessarily put poisons on there. They don't have the same regulations that we have with lead-based paints, and they do what they do with painting because the shit will last forever, and then we can't handle that over here, and then we get pissed off. Uh, but again, not trying to defend them, the fact is that it's not really a political back and forth. If again, if we were enemies, we wouldn't be doing business with them. That point blank period. Because how much stuff do you buy from North Korea? That's an enemy. Is that even the pink dye that is used in children's toys for toddlers, etc., during the development stages, marketed by China, is cadmium. Again, China does not have the same regulations on minerals and metals going into their paints as the United States does. The kind of metals that they put into their paints, they'll paint a building and the shit will last for 1,000 years and you won't have to put another coat on it. You paint a house in America, and a year and a half from now, you're putting five more coats on it. Fact is that they do it differently. We don't like it like that. And their paints go on the outside. Our paints go on the inside. You know that every paint can has "don't breathe this in" on the label, but at the end of the day, we still breathe it in. We keep it in closed doors. We keep highly flammable stuff in the garage in the summertime where it could explode because we're not responsible for ourselves, which has been known as carcinogenic, that impedes human development of the brain by disrupting the endocrine system, but it doesn't change the fact that uh, it doesn't change the fact that that has nothing to do. If they put it on their products and they ship it to America, their laws on how their products are designed and our laws on how the products are designed are two different things. If we buy it, that's on us. If they got lead-based paint on their what is it, the Kona, and we buy it because it's got better electric mileage than the Tesla, I mean, we bought it. Directly marketed to little girls in America. They're directly marketed to children. The same toys that they have in their country are the same toys that we have in our country. And so we buy it from them, and our kids play with them. But unlike our kids, their kids ain't shoving shit in their mouths. Their kids play with it right. Their kids don't use a Hot Wheel as a chew toy. So when our kids use a Hot Wheel as a chew toy and they're sucking on that lead-based paint, where that toy would have lasted 100 years with the way it was designed, our kids, with irresponsible parenting, allow the kid to damn near choke on a toy, and because he swallowed some lead-based paint, oh, China's trying to attack Americans. That's not what it is, and that's not what today's show is about. Today's show is about oil, not China being a bad country. Why am I not number one anymore? You haven't been number one because you don't comment as much, and your comments are not positive because you're steering the conversation away from the main topic of tonight's show. That's why you're not number one. Are you switching up on your day ones? No, you're switching up on positive behavior because we're having an adult conversation about making money, make money for us, and you are clowning, and we're not clowning today. I told you keep those comments yesterday's show, not today's show. Uh, he said, I think a better word is competitor. Exactly. Exactly. Competitor is a fantastic word for it. not enemy. Why can't you use lead-based paint? I know, Michael, we was using lead-based paint when we were kids, but I wasn't putting toys in my mouth neither. On the house, on the car, I would repaint the dog if I could. Y'all know how we used to get rid of fleas? We would change the oil and put the oil on the dog. Kids would be kids no matter their national background. Exactly. Bro, I was talking about interesting stuff yesterday, but today you jumped in the comment section and the first thing you said was Epstein list. And the only reason why I didn't block you was because you was one of the day one guys. That's inappropriate. We're talking about oil today. And I got to redirect us back to the oil topic today because now we're having a side topic about how China is attacking the United States. And that's not today's topic. Today's topic is about how we can invest in the Venezuelan insurgency, where the United States has taken over 300 billion barrels of money in the form of crude oil, and they're going to redistribute it to make profits. That's what we're talking about today. He said, no, that's the thing. China does not allow uh, the sale of the same thing and some products that they market to America that are allowed in their country or most countries. I would have to double check that. I would have to double check that. Give me a second. I would have to double check that. Uh, and then I'm gonna check it right now. I'm gonna double check that. He says if you want quality, buy Japanese made goods. If you want quality, get Japanese made women. Let's see what's going on with this China situation, because this China debate is completely different from the Venezuela country that we're talking about with oil. We're talking about today is oil in Venezuela, not China, and their ability to corrupt the American children with toys. But let me double check this real quick, because you're saying that that China doesn't allow the same stuff in their country. He said it's not by coincidence. But then again, China lives under a virtual dictatorship. Yeah, yes, they do live by a virtual dictatorship. Let me see if I can get this to start up here. We got so I got so many things popping up here. I want to see exactly what's going on with that. Uh, is there versions of social credit score is insanity. People become homeless by making the wrong comment in public or private. Doesn't matter. They're being watched all the time and categorized. Right. So the fact that they treat each other with the utmost respect is based on their social score, type of social credit score in the United States. Because the way people are assholes in the United States, they would not behave the way they behave if they were gauged on a social credit score. If your Reddit review determined whether or not you could get a job or get into college or whatever, you would be very, very respectful to the people around you, because you don't want your value in your society to be depleted. And I believe that they do have a very effective model. While people can go homeless because of that model, if you are respectful, here's another thing. If you value yourself and you value your family, you're not going to degrade or devalue yourself, because that would degrade and devalue your family. And then all of these OnlyFans girls would not exist in the United States, because parents and families would be disowning these people to prevent that from happening. He says, sell the oil and send me a check. Good idea. Uh, now, as is the topic of the oil that was seized in Venezuela. Did anybody ever think that they found drugs on the oil boats? Nope, I didn't even talk about the oil boats. I wasn't even covering the drugs on the oil boats. I was covering the fact that because they took over Venezuela, the 300 billion gallons of oil that we're going to supposed to be addressing exactly where we could put our money with stocks, bonds, and investments, because of what just happened in the country recently. So you're completely left field on today's topic. I'm trying to see if I can pull this up for you so that we can go ahead and cover uh, so that I can go ahead and see what is the reference related to China not allowing stuff that's being sold in America to be sold in China, but ultimately straddling the supply of oil to China and Russia from Venezuela is definitely a positive thing for the United States. Yeah, anything that the United States does with that oil is going to be positive for the United States because we get free oil and everybody else pays for it. And we don't have to mine our own oil, which means that the 100+ years worth of oil that we have, we don't have to touch for a long period of time. And since Maduro is no longer in charge, that means that the people can actually benefit directly rather than, Maduro eat steak and lobster while his people starve to death. I mean, the American people are not going to do any better. I'm going to be honest with you. The United States is not going to make Venezuela a utopia. Puerto Rico, for example. The fact of the matter is that the United States government went over there for the sole purpose of getting paid, and they're going to get paid. They didn't go over there to make Venezuela better. They went over there to get paid, and they're going to get paid. Now, if they give the people over there in Venezuela jobs the way the president was going to give the people in Mexico jobs to build a wall and all this other stuff, the fact is that they're not going to make billions of dollars per person. You know what I mean? To power the surplus required for Venezuela crude oil. The fact is that America is going to make a shit ton of money off of that, and the people who buy that from Venezuela is going to make get a shit ton of oil off of it. But that does not mean that Venezuela is going to be the next Dubai because they're under American control. That's the furthest thing from the truth. They're not going to eat steak and lobster. The same shit that they're eating out of the trash cans with this guy that used to be in charge is going to be the same shit that they're eating out of the trash can with Donald Trump in charge. Donald Trump is not going to make Venezuela a utopia because he is getting the oil out of Venezuela. He is just going to take the oil out of Venezuela. And the result of that is collateral damage. Plain and simple. I'm trying to see if I can get this thing up here to find out what's going on before I end this show. I'm gonna do the best I can to try to cover that comment that you made. He said even China, the homeless are useful because they need kidneys. Y'all tripping today. Y'all going ham. I appreciate the candor, y'all. Y'all are in there. Um, Hold on a second. Maybe I gotta crash this browser real quick. Not the one that we're watching the show on. Oh, there it is. There it is. Now the browser pops up. Oh, okay. So that means I'll be able to get that question in there. Especially those that have a poor social credit score was because they lost their home for a comment they made online or at their work or in their home to another. They lost their homes because they have a financial system over there where you can borrow against the stone, not only because of your social credit, but because of your family's legacy, and you don't have to pay that back right away. So you can build up a shit ton of debt. But then they also have a legal system where when you disrespect other people, mistreat other people, or in any way, shape, or form cause harm to somebody else's character, that you can get sued for that. And that's how you lose all of your money. Not because you call somebody an asshole on social media and then the government comes in and takes all of your wealth. It's because you devalued somebody else on social media. That person knows who you are. That person can find you, and that person's lawyer will take you for everything that you have. Now you're living in a cardboard box because you didn't have respect for the person down the street from you. Because the difference between the United States and everywhere in Asia is that the people in Asia know everybody in their city. They don't just know everybody on the block. They know everybody in their city. Everybody know everybody. They know everybody's ancestors. So when you say something negative, they know who you are. You're so and so's sister. You're so and so's brother. You're so and so's cousin. And they know who you are, which means they know how to get to you. You know how in America, you're supposed to update your identification every 90 days and after you move or whatever. And if you don't update it, technically that's against the law. But at the end of the day, you technically don't have to because if they can't prove that you relocated, they go to do a background check on you and find you. They can't find you because your address is not accurate on your driver's license. See, over there in China, they know where you are because your information is regularly updated because they're more stricter about their laws about your identity and your location. Not too many people move because they stayed 7, 10 generations in the same address. And at the end of the day, it's easy to find you. So when you commit a crime over there, they could go to your house, let themselves in because everybody knows everybody. Come on in, officer, have some tea while we're waiting on the suspect. That's what's going on over there. Okay. It's completely different from what we are. You gotta find me when I did something wrong. You can know me for 20 years. You gotta find me when I did something wrong. But over there in China, the police is at your house before you get home, sitting there eating dinner, waiting to, like, that's all right. We'll arrest you after dinner. Thanks for the food. That's how they wilding out over there. Now that I got this thing pulled up, I'm gonna ask this question. We're gonna get back on this Venezuela thing. Uh, does China sell the same stuff to its people that it does to the US, or is those products banned in China? We're going to get to the bottom of this. And then we're going to move back into our discussion about China. Now, China does not have one simple rule where exported goods are banned domestically. It mostly sells the same kind of products at home that it sells abroad, but with different versions, brands, and rules. Many Chinese made consumer goods, electronics, clothes, and toys sold in the United States are also sold in by different versions and product standards are that products often come in different versions for different markets. For example, different power plugs, safety labels, language, or software features, even if they are made in the same factory. Some goods must meet stricter or just different safety, quality, or data security rules in China than in the United States. And that's where the paint problem comes in at because their paint rules aren't our paint rules. So the United States Chinese versions, they're different and can be slightly different even when the brand is the same. What actually gets banned or restricted? China sometimes restricts or bans exporting certain items towards the United States, mainly sensitive materials like the algorithm for TikTok or other technologies. For example, some high tech metals like gallium or germanium or dual use items with military applications. Those export controls are about what can leave China and go to the United States, not about banning ordinary consumer products from being sold to Chinese people inside of China. Now, everyday items that people see in the United States stores are on site like Temu and Amazon. Clothes, small electronics, home goods, toys are typically also sold in China's domestic market, either under the same brand or a local brand from the same manufacturer. So the biggest differences are usually branding, quality tier, and price levels, depending on whether the goods are aimed at Chinese buyers or US big box retailers or premium Western brands that outsource products to Chinese factories. So I took a lot of time on our straw man topic so that I could address that to make sure that it's clear that that's not what it is. But yes, China is a 100% surveillance state. Um, we acknowledge that. And oh Jesus. And then he says, has there been words of the U.S. Putting boots on the ground because there's a chance the collective and Fanby could sabotage the pipeline and oil rigs? No, there hasn't been any information about it yet because so far there. I'm going to get into the fact that there is one specific company that is already on the ground that holds about 75%, if I remember correctly, of the oil that's being produced out of Venezuela, and there are quite a few others that's trying to get in there. So we're going to be talking about that, but there has not been any reports of potential sabotage. That's true. The intention was to get paid and take over resources of Venezuela. Exactly. But they're also under scrutiny of the microscope of public opinion now. Oh, everything we do is going to be under public opinion microscope because American people can talk shit, but they can't back it up. The military backs up what the president say, but the day-to-day people who talk trash on a regular basis don't have the knowledge to back up the comments that they're making. They just argue for the sake of arguing without actually looking at how that benefits them. And today we're going to be talking about how this benefits us. uh because that's the only reason why I cover the topic, because I don't cover political topics to debate politics. I cover political topics to talk about how that political change impacts your wallet, impacts your ability to make and save or invest money. And so this is going to be a big financial change for investors who invest in oil, and that's when it, or investors who didn't think about investing in oil before this. I'm going to be talking about how this is a benefit for those individuals, because it is the oil companies that are impacted by this are in the core satellite portfolio that I've been telling y'all about. So we're going to be, for those that are watching at 16 by 9 and those that are watching as 9 by 16, you see those oil companies going across the screen. Those are the ones that are involved. He said it was a geopolitical move. Yes, it was a geopolitical move. No, there's actually talk that we are going to build refineries in Venezuela, which means jobs. That doesn't mean that they're going to be eating good. It just means that they're going to be working hard. The same way they had them sweatshops in third world countries where they was making Jordans for dirt cheap. That will put food on the plates for the people of Venezuela. Not no different from what it was before. Okay, so the increase in refineries, because they're going to be mass producing oil in Venezuela, yes, that will put more jobs out there for more people that's going to be working in crude oil, but that only means that they're going to be out there in the oil, in the mud, drilling holes underground like miners, like coal miners, and they're going to be out there making it do what it do, manual labor to get paid. And they're going to get the same rates that they were getting paid before. It's not like they're going to be rich now. It just means that there's going to be, you're not going to have unemployed oil miners or oil drillers, refinery workers, engineers. You're not going to have as many unemployed individuals over there, but that doesn't mean that they're going to have so much food on the table that they're not going to be destitute. No, they're going to be as equally destitute as they was before. You're just going to have less people poor. Well, not poor, but less people without a job. They're still going to be poor. They're just not going. They're going to have less people that don't have a job. I would be happy with an oil stimulus check from the government. You're not going to get that, Michael. Including the jobs to build the refineries. I'm also getting jobs offering websites that is already opening jobs to train Venezuelan people in roughneck capabilities. Well, yeah, there's going to be all sorts of things that are going to put um, that into action, because in order for you to utilize the manpower of another country, you must train the manpower of another country. So somebody's getting paid to train Venezuelan people to be good workers in this particular industry, and then somebody else is going to get paid from these workers putting in the effort in this industry. But they're not doing it to benefit the people that are there. They're doing it to make money. If the Venezuelan people make money, that's good. But they're not. Donald Trump's goal is not to make Venezuela better. Donald Trump's goal is to take all 300 billion barrels of oil out of Venezuela. That's his goal. Funny part was a month ago, right? More cameras. Exxon is one of the ones that's in there. Venezuela basically has Halliburton and KBR vibes already. Okay, we'll see. Uh, what is that? Refu Refu Glockians? I'm guessing these are all different entities. And I get all my knees and pray we got fooled again. Nope, we're not gonna. We're gonna get some money off of this. I'm gonna tell you why. He said, you mean the tooth fairy isn't visiting me? No, Michael, the tooth fairy, you too old to have teeth in your mouth. You should have dentures right now at 72 years old. Now, to grasp the economic earthquake that this could trigger, you have to understand the paradox of Venezuela, because on paper, this is a nation that should be an energy superpower. It holds the world's largest proven oil reserves, around 300 billion barrels. That's almost 18% of all known reserves on the planet, even more than Saudi Arabia. So, for much of the 20th century, this wealth made Venezuela a beacon of prosperity in South America, even though people are claiming that Venezuela is destitute, right? Now, that legacy is now a distant memory because the country is a textbook example of the resource curse. Like Michael said, remember to like and subscribe. Decades of mismanagement, corruption under Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro's and crippling U.S. sanctions brought its oil industry to its knees. Yep, there's going to be rare minerals there, Dixie carrots, and cons. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. We have to see because again, we're going to get to this point. An industry that once pumped nearly 3.5 million barrels per day was down to producing only 750,000 to 1.1 million barrels per day before the United States intervention because of all of the sanctions. That's a rounding error from a country sitting on a sea of oil, right? He said, yes, rare metals are definitely beneficial to America. Currently, China holds the monopoly, right? But that's one of the reasons why the United States backed Ukraine was because of the precious minerals, not because they were wrongfully being attacked by Russia. Because we had no problem with conquering Venezuela. Now, the decay isn't just about turning off a switch. It's a total systemic collapse. The skilled workforce, the engineers and geologists who knew how to run the fields, fled to the countries, uh, fled those countries years ago, and the physical infrastructure is in shambles. Are rusted out. Refineries that were once world class operators at a tiny fraction of their capacity are not doing as good as they used to. Storage tankers are often so full because nothing can be exported. The production has to be shut down entirely, right? And here's another layer of complexity. The oil itself, most of Venezuela's reserves in the Oran- Oranico belt aren't the light, sweet crude that gushes from the ground in Texas. It's extra heavy, tar like oil with a high sulfur content. So this stuff is tough and expensive to get out of the ground, and it doesn't flow easily. And it needs special processes to even get it onto a ship. And it often has to be mixed with a lighter oil, a diluent, which Venezuela has sometimes been forced to import. America's going to fix that problem. He says, but as for the lithium, cobalt, and neodymium, these are limited resources that cannot even supply roughly 5% of the world's population with this miracle technology, which is one of the reasons why these are the minerals that you're supposed to be investing in, because these are the minerals that are going to have high profit returns upon sale. So you want to hold shares of these particular minerals in order for you to be able to benefit from the long term when that 5% is either limited down to 1% or obsolete. He said it's a worldwide limited source. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And that's why it's called a precious metal, because it's in a limited provision, and it's highly valuable. But I mean, it is undervalued at this point because while it is less known, the cost of it is so little. But once everybody knows about it and knows what it does, the cost of it is going to be a lot because it's going to have less of it available. We don't do well with recycling as human beings. The world population will increase almost 50% by 2035. I doubt that the planet will be at 12 billion people by 2035. This toxic mix of political failure, infrastructure collapse, and geological difficulty has left the world's largest oil reserves almost completely dormant, and it has become a sleeping giant. So the question that has hung over energy markets for years is what it would take to wake up this sleeping giant. Now, with the United States effectively in the driver's seat, that question is no longer hypothetical. The challenge is going to be huge, but for a potential reward, which is a flood of new oil, this is what has Wall Street and Washington holding their breath. The giant is starting to stir. So, what will it actually take to awaken the sleeping giant? It's a Herculean task requiring an injection of capital that's hard to even wrap your head around. And the idea that Venezuelan oil production can just be flipped on like a light switch is a dangerous fantasy. This looks like you grabbed an article and threw it up here, but let me see what it says here. Um, cosmic ray production. One study estimates that cosmic rays could have generated between 162 and 642 million metric tons of lithium on Mars, suggesting a significant, potentially ancient source, which means that they're just going to go to Mars and they're going to mine that too. Japan is already switching to hydrogen, and the thing about hydrogen is that if you burn it, you get water. It's is also about 70% more efficient than gasoline or diesel, right? And there are quite a few countries that I have covered already that's working on hydrogen, bottling hydrogen and exporting it. Um, I remember the name of one of the countries right now, but we were talking about bottling and exporting hydrogen before. So uh, there was the American that turned his gas powered car into a hydrogen based car. Yeah, feds came and got him. It's been a thing. We used to have hydrogen pumps back in the early '90s, and they took them all up. They decided not to run that route with hydrogen cars. Burns about 70% cooler and 90% more efficient in terms of the air watts energy pressure wave pro- propagation fields that push the turbine and push the piston, aka sound wave energy. Well, that's good. Just getting water from the tailpipe. He's full of it. Technically, in a hydrogen engine that works efficiently, you don't need an intake or an exhaust system. Okay, true, true. Burning hydrogen gets water in from steam due to the hold on, the comments are rolling off. Covalent bond of hydrogen and oxygen is roughly a Mach 3.5 pressure wave field. Okay. We are completely off from the oil thing right now. What is hydrogen burns 100% clean, no carbon energy, and goes boom, 100% recyclable. That's good. All right. So, according to a detailed analysis by Rystand Energy, just maintaining Venezuela's current wheat production level of around 1.1 million barrels per day would require a staggering $35 billion in investments over the next 15 years, which is less than building the freaking wall for the United States. And that's not for growth, that's for the support. That money would be for patching up failing wells, installing lift systems to get the heavy crude to the surface, and desperately trying to stabilize the power grid and repair critical pipelines. The near term growth prospects are pretty modest. Rystan estimates that a initial investment of 10 to 20 billion might restore, and this will give them an additional 300,000 barrels per day within 2 to 3 years. So they'll go from 1.1 to 1.4 million barrels per day of production. JP Morgan has a similar forecast projecting a ramped up uh, something along the lines of 1.4 million barrels per day within 2 years, but only with major new investments. He said, well, Edna definitely won the Bonehead Award today. I don't know who Edna is. That's Pennies. Yeah, that is Pennies. That is Pennies. The truly game-changing numbers is the ones that get politicians and oil executives excited, carrying a much bigger price tag. To push production back towards its historical peaks, the aggressive expansion scenario would demand an additional $8 to $9 billion in capital every single year until 2040. And the total bill for the ambitious rebuild, what do you think that's going to be? A mind boggling $183 billion. This would fund new wells, a complete overhaul of refineries, and modernizing the entire supply chain. And this is the number behind President Trump's call for a $100 billion investment from big oil, because it's essentially the down payment on the generational project. But it's not just about the money, it's about overcoming three critical bottlenecks. Uh, Hold on, he says, yeah, I don't report many things, but that one I did. I don't even know what that is. You said something about Edna. I don't know who Edna is. Then comes the resource war, and true. It could. There could be a resource war, or there could be profits all around. You never know. Everybody could have a foot in the water, and everybody could be making money. Because the color of one's skin does not determine their value as a human being. Not anymore, because the color of the money in your pocket determines how much value you are in this country now. I'm gonna I mean, you can just throw a saddle on your ass. I don't know. Uh, their actions and content of character does. Okay, yes. So that is where the social credit comes from in China. You're not valued based on the color of your skin. You're valued on your behavior. But also, what they have in Asia is that the children don't get treated the way American children get treated in the legal system. The kids in Asia can commit a crime close to murder or even murder and just get a slap on the wrist, not necessarily have to go to prison for it. The stuff that they do as children are sealed. If they learn how to behave as adults, they don't have to deal with that. But as adults, if you don't behave well, you don't have any financial credit. Your character is in the toilet. You don't really have to bottle hydrogen. It has such a volatile capability that picograms can push a piston and you can make it as you go easily and not have to worry about. Okay, true, but we're talking about the actual crude oil. So yeah, I think we talked about that a few weeks ago when we were talking about Norway and we were talking about the plastic gasoline. Dylan would have brought that up too. I mean, it's a good observation. It's a good observation. So, foot in the water from a foreign nation resources. We saw that in Iraq twice. Yeah, but where we failed in Iraq, we shouldn't have failed with Venezuela. Now, first, refining is what we're going to be talking about. Venezuela's massive refineries are ghosts of their former selves, operating at a fraction of their capacity due to broken equipment. The country has suffered the indignity of importing gasoline despite sitting on the world's largest crude reserves. Second, storage and logistics. The system is so broken that even when wells can produce, the oil often has nowhere to go. Tanks forms fill up. The oil tank forms, they fill up. forcing producers to shut down or resort to expensive floating storage on tankers, meaning that they fill up all of this stuff, they put it on a boat, they let it just sit somewhere, or put it on a raft or a canoe somewhere, let it sit somewhere. And third, the circulatory system itself, the pipelines and thermals, where the network that moves crude from the oil fields to the coast is so degraded that it creates a permanent bottleneck that no amount of drilling alone can solve. And here we go again. This is the reality on the ground, and that is the 183 billion dollar figure that is representing the monumental challenge of rebuilding an entire industry from the ground up, all while navigating a political minefield. It's a high stakes gamble, and the first players are already placing their bets, right? Okay, he says oil is composed of hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. Right, but we're talking about buying and selling oil. In fact, one of the processes to refine gasoline is making hydrogen. Okay, yes, sir. Oh, yeah, they will get it right like the 12th time. Hey, but we're going to make money off of investing in it. We're not going to go over there and build shit. I'm going to tell you guys how to invest in it. Electrolysis. Are we even on the same topic? Separating oxygen and hydrogen, right? Okay. 0.3 volts to electrolysis of water and hydrogen. It's all about the frequency of 7.682 hertz that actually separates it. Okay. Yeah, like we made money from Iraq. Exactly. The people who invested in oil made a shit ton of money off of those investments. Now, an event like this doesn't happen in a vacuum. The prospect of Venezuelan oil returning to the global market sends immediate and powerful shockwaves through the United States economy. In a classic case of creative destruction, and it will create clear winners and losers here. And none of that went to the people. I keep telling them it's not going to go to the people. It's not going to go to the Iraqi people. They're not going to send stimulus checks to the American people, but the people who own stocks and shares in the companies that are going to make this money, they're going to make that money. They say, well, that's what KBR and Halberton did. Yeah, but I'm going to be talking about different oil companies than those two. The most obvious winner is going to be the American consumer. A potential influx of millions of barrels of new supply fundamentally alters the global oil market. It puts powerful downward pressure on prices. Special shout out to the Tampa Bay area. I'm gonna let that one slide. Uh, some forecasts predict Brent crude, the global benchmark, could fall into the mid 50s, like $50 per barrel range set. And for the average American, that means lower prices at the gas pump, freeing up income and acting like a broad based economic stimulus. Lower energy costs would also ripple through the whole economy, reducing expenses for businesses from airlines to manufacturing. Uh, Remember, there will be waste involved, so invest in some waste management. Exactly. Fantastic, Michael. Fantastic. Thinking on your toes during the shock and all campaign, as well as the tank rounds and the bullets that were used for the troops, uh, which is also where Gulf War syndrome originated from the depleted uranium in the rounds. That actually is not bad idea, Michael. Although, do you remember the original purpose of Ida Crossing? Consumers won't make us any money. We are consumers, so we're gonna save money by not having to spend as much money on other stuff. He says it never has. It was just bankrupt us oil companies overall, bankrupt U.S. oil companies overall. Well, if it bankrupts U.S. oil companies, then don't invest in it. If that's your permission. That's your perspective. Let me know when the price of oil goes down at the pump. Well, gas was under $2 a couple weeks ago. So if when I remember, gas was almost $5 a gallon. It's now under $2 a gallon. So woo, that was quick. That depends on where you live, Michael. In Arizona, I pay 3.16 a gallon for diesel. I'm talking about premium gas. I'm not even talking about 80, 87. I'm talking about 93 and 94 octane. I was under $2 a gallon just the other day. $2.30 for unleaded. See. Now, the second big winner is a specific slice of the United States energy industry, which is the Gulf Coast refineries. You can invest in those guys if you want to. The massive complex refiners in Texas and Louisiana were specifically built to process the exact type of extra heavy, high sulfur crude that Venezuela has in abundance. So for years, since sanctions cut off that supply, they relied on more expensive heavy crude from places like Canada, which we can't do anymore because we're not on good terms with Canada. So the return of Venezuelan oil is an extraordinarily positive development for Texas and Louisiana. It means cheaper, more abundant raw materials, which widens their profit margins. But where there's a winner, there's always a loser. The most prominent loser could be America's own shale oil industry, particularly in the premium basin. These companies are sensitive to price. A long period of oil in the $50 or $60 a barrel would squeeze their margins, potentially leading to less drilling, layoffs, and a slowdown in one of the country's biggest economic engines. And the pain could be even worse for Canadian oil producers because the heavy crude from Canadia's oil sands is very similar to Venezuela's. They have been a primary replacement for Venezuelan barrels at U.S. refineries. The return of their direct competitors means fierce competition, like forcing them to sell their oil at a deeper discount and hitting their profits even harder. And finally, there is the US government. In the short term, the sustained military presence to provide security so that all of that uprising that you guys were talking about doesn't occur as much means higher defense spending. But Washington sees this as a price worth paying. So the administration has been explicit that the key goal is to limit the influence of China and Cuba in the region. And for years, China has been a primary customer for sanctioned Venezuelan oil. The new US control system is designed to cut off that flow and redirect all sales. And this move is less about immediate cash for the United States Treasury and more about reasserting American dominance in its own hemisphere. uh, OPEC controls has prices, not the US government. We're going to get to that. Invest in stocks, real estate, everything else is a side hustle. That's what I talk to people about on a regular basis. That if you invest in dividend based stocks, then you can have your interest rates paid to you, and you can utilize the interest rates to pay into real estate, where your real estate can then produce more revenue for you. And anything that you borrow against in real estate can be offset by the dividends provided to you from your stock market, which will be a tax blanket. And then you really only have to deal with any profits that are recognized off of your real estate. You can find yourself building $1 billion industry by putting your principal into cash dividend stocks and then taking your interest and putting it into real estate, getting rental properties, building yourself an empire that you can pass on to your family, your kids and your grandkids. 49.69 unleaded in Washington State. Oh, see, okay, that's high as fuck. Fractional mining, that's one way to do it. So tell that to the people of 2009 that lost their entire life pursuit in the stock market and real estate. They weren't paying attention to the dividend rotation strategy that I've been talking about since June of last year. They weren't paying attention to the undervalued stocks that I've got going across the bottom of the screen. More military spending. Why not? Oh, of course. We were saving money when they recalled all the troops under the Democratic authority, but now that we're under Republican authority, we're going to war in the United States and we're going to war outside of the United States. But the Democrats were the problem. Never put your eggs in one basket and never count them before they hatch. That's a good saying, but you should definitely pay attention to the stock advice that I've got for you today. Do your research and see what's best for you. Like it or not, uh, Adams, what is it? Atmos America producers uh, armament to the world in the amount of technology and the production military spending means more advanced technology, which means that you're going to have to find another job because most blue collar jobs are going to be dismantled by technology, which means you're going to find yourself unemployed eventually. And if you don't build wealth, you're going to be poor. You're going to be poor and homeless. Figure that part out. And from that technology that is advanced in the military spending also comes the application of civilian technology advance. Yes, exactly. War is business. Right. And the employees are the casualties. We end up losing our jobs because we did too good making equipment that can do what humans do. Venezuela doesn't have an American military base, which is interesting. That is interesting. They don't have one yet, but they will now. Like it or not, was it Jolin spending more than a trillion a year to the military that can pass the budget worked great so far. Dude, spending $1 trillion a year on the military is one of the reasons why we're about to have another shutdown in 3 weeks. America needs a base in Venezuela. They need like 5 bases in Venezuela so that they don't got to send troops back and forth. I mean, technically, it takes $1.7 trillion just to keep the lights on in the government per year. Yeah, but it's not like the government is working to make that money. They are this year. They're building their own wealth, a sovereign wealth fund, so that America can pay for its own debt, so that the American people doesn't have to pay for the government over time. But you're looking at like 25 years of this happening before the budget is paid for by the investments of the government itself. Do your homework first all the time. More tech has to come out of NASA with a far less funding than the DOJ. You are right. And with that being said, for investors, this all boils down to one question: where does the money go? This prospect of unlocking 300 billion barrels the stock market, but it is not a simple story where everyone in energy can uh, uh, stock up their shares in the stock market and expect those shares to go up. It's a high risk game where a company's specific situation in Venezuela is everything. So I want to break this down real quick with the key players so that we know who all is involved. He says they signed an almost $5 trillion bill this year and they ain't safe in anything. Without war, we would not have the space program, freeways, etc. I'm not gonna argue with that, bro. I'm not gonna argue with that because didn't your boy make the atom bomb by accident because he was trying to create infinite energy? So every time we do something for good, evil can come about for it, and every time we do something for evil, good can come about of it because having 30 times rolled steel that's bullet resistant to 9mm firearms only happened because he was making stuff for military and space use. Humans thrive on conflict and the technology that results as of. Yep. And we are after all the alpha like predators species, alpha predator mammals. Now, here is some of the ones that we're going to be getting into real quick. Man, my internet sucks right now. Uh, he said Cold War A Cold War brought the space program. Yes, it did. Now, Chevron. I'm going to start with this one. So when we were talking about, oh, who are you going to invest in? Who are you going to invest in? Well, first person that you need to start considering is going to be Chevron and give you that ticker. Chevron is the man on the inside because the clearest, most immediate beneficiary here is going to be Chevron, while other U.S. major companies left Venezuela years ago. Chevron played the long game through nationalization and sanctions. The company managed to stay, maintaining its operations through a specifically special license and a joint venture with the state oil company PDVSA. Before the intervention, Chevron was already producing roughly 200,000 barrels per day. This gives Chevron a huge first mover advantage. They have people on the ground already, and they have existing infrastructure that they can expand on with little to no problem. They know the politics of that country. And while competitors will have to start from scratch, Chevron can simply scale up. Companies and their executives have already stated that they plan to increase production significantly to over the next 18 to 24 months, and even a modest expansion could add a noticeable boost to Chevron's cash flow, which funds the dividends and buybacks that shareholders love. But the upside isn't limitless because the stock jump on the news means a Venezuelan premium is already priced into the current stock price. And now it is all going to come down to execution. He says, I'm trying to see, American oil companies are historically known for not paying dirt in third world countries, for not paying dirt. Oh, you mean not playing dirty? Oh no, they get down and dirty. They get down and dirty in the third world countries. They get down and dirty in the third world countries. Let me go ahead and get this other one up here. He said, without fertilizer, nothing grows. You don't need fertilizer. Also, little known to most people, but roughly 21 trillion of the 38 trillion deficit that we currently have has gone to deep underground military bases for the purpose of continuity of government. Yeah, so in case of a nuclear holocaust, the top 1% and political powers are going to be living underground while the rest of us are going to be fighting zombies on the surface, like the Umbrella Corporation. Y'all think that shit was made up just for the sake of entertainment? Sometimes they put facts in fiction and call it a story, and then you enjoy that, and you're like, oh man, I love that movie. Hmm. Till it happens. He said they don't care about it. Michael Jackson said that a lot, but it's pretty uh, apparent that they plan to hide themselves underground in a very short amount of time from something that they're going to cause, the same way they caused COVID. Yeah, the internet is crashing on me right now. So as I'm trying to maintain stable connection, StreamYards keeps telling me to wait. StreamYard keeps telling me to wait a second. Get look, the browser just I'm still operating on 5Gs. We're about to see what's going on here. Oh Lord, here we go. We're in one of them situations where there it is. All right, we're back. I was about to pull myself up on the cell phone and finish streaming from the cell phone because the browser started acting funny. He said, yeah, okay, so I read that already. And then, like I said, Fallout coming true. You're right. You're right. Now, next one up here because we're supposed to be talking about all the ways we can invest on what just happened with the raid here. ExxonMobil and uh ConocoPhillips, the ghosts of expropriation past. These are the guys that were doing this back in the day. So if y'all don't know, ExxonMobil is in our core satellite portfolio. I've never heard of ConocoPhillips, but ExxonMobil, we know about those guys, and these are some of the ones that are going to benefit from upcoming trends. He's like, yeah, I think the zombie apocalypse is going to happen first. You're right. I mean, we call it a zombie apocalypse where people are going to be allegedly the Walking Dead, but I think more to the magnitude of externally sick and highly contagious and uncontrollably attacking other people might be the dynamic of the true nature of the scenario. And then a collapse of government and the lack of authority because even law enforcement and judges are going to be negatively impacted by it, and that's going to cause the rapid deterioration of government, and then we will be every man for himself out here. Generally, the government doesn't survive that no matter what their intentions are. I mean, if they lock themselves away before it happens, yeah, but if they try to rescue a family member, oh no, you've contaminated the whole room. Everybody's going down. Just being selfish and trying to save a relative, you will fuck up the whole mission. As I know, I just looked at one up. I just looked that one up. Oh, okay. Even if you put all of the 1% underground, someone is cleaning the toilet. Oh, you know it. It's the janitor. So the 1%er and the 105%er, those two are going to be in the safe space. Uh, Cap all. I looked at one of two. Okay. I'm about to. I got to get you a couple of more because I think I know I got one or two more of them. Self-cleaning toilets. Oh, true. I didn't think about that. AI bots. We didn't think about that either. Again, they didn't intend on you to have the information. You're right. $6.86 a share isn't bad to start with, and this is one of the reasons why I put them in the dividend rotation strategy because I'm telling you guys, I'm like, look, our core satellite portfolio has some of the most undervalued stocks in the market right now. And if you go and take a look at some of these stocks, you're like, shit, dude, a lot of these stocks are under $25 or under $10, and you can jump in these for a drink at the bar, a pack of cigarettes, a case of beer. You could be buying shares in some big companies that are making big moves, and these are dividend paying stocks. And I'm like, I don't know why people don't pay attention to where they put their money. Shit. Matter of fact, the YouTube premium is two shares of Prospect Capital at 12 cents a share. You could get 25 cents a share or 25 cents back off your investment for every YouTube account that you have. I'm just saying. Same thing with Netflix. Netflix is $25. At you said 686, right? So that's like three shares of that stock instead of your Netflix account. I'm just saying you could be making money if you put your money somewhere else. I mean, even $100 or $200, that could be pretty lucrative. And that's why I'm talking to you guys about it today. That's exactly why I'm talking to you guys about it today. I have literally never done stocks. All it takes is for you to buy the stock, hold the stock, and get the dividends off of the stock. It's not about buying the stock and then selling it at the most intricate time. It's not about uh, 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 finding the right buyer or anything like that. You buy it, you hold it, you get your dividends off of it. That's what's going on. He said, what's the oil company? Oh, okay, Michael. So now that you're paying attention, you've got ExxonMobil, you've got ConocoPhillips, and I already talked to you guys about Chevron. Those are the ones that that's the ones I've covered so far. And then I'm going to cover the rest of them because I do got a couple more on here. But for ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips, Venezuela is a story of a painful past and a very uncertain future because both companies had their massive assets seized by Hugo Chavez government back in 2007. And ever since, they've been fighting in international courts, winning multi-billion dollar judgments that has never been paid. So Venezuela still owes the money, and since the United States owns Venezuela, the United States owes them money. So unlike Chevron, they have no presence on the ground today, and their path to profiting is much more speculative because one possibility is a settlement because with a new US backed government, they might finally get paid for their seized assets, either in cash or in oil. The second path is reentry, negotiating new deals to develop oil fields. But here's the thing, they'd be starting from zero at a huge disadvantage compared to Chevron. So for this reason, the market sees Venezuela as a lottery ticket for these two companies, not a core part of their value. An investment in these two companies is based on Venezuela's bet on the long term. It's a complicated legal and diplomatic process. My Dolan says, but where do you buy the stocks? Is my question. Okay, so you do have the ability to go and grab them off of TD Ameritrade and other stock portfolios like Acorn. However, outside of reaching out directly to those individual companies and setting up some type of investment portfolio, you can go to Stash app and I should have this on the screen somewhere, but I don't. But if you have uh, fintech that benefits everyone these days. I'm putting it up here on screen for you because it is not Cash App, it is Stash App. This app, if you download this app, I should have gave you a referral link where we both benefit from it. But if you download this app and you set up an account, you can put money onto this account and then you can put your money towards the stocks that I'm talking to you guys about. And that's going to be ETF trading, where you're going to hold the dollar value of the shares of the company without actually having to go and grab the exact share of the company. Where it, whenever you feel like selling, you can sell, but you still benefit from the dividend payout, which allows you to build a massive portfolio through ETF trading, which allows you to have more easy accessibility to that particular quantity of capital. Because just like I sold Global Net Lease earlier today, I will be able to utilize my money first thing in the morning to buy into Stag before Friday, where I would be able to then trade out of Stag by Monday into something else, which is not readily able to be done as quickly on TD Ameritrade or Acorn. So yeah, I downloaded that. I just been so busy working that I didn't do anything with it. I used to have it years ago, and I didn't know anything about how to invest back then, and I gave up on the account. And then when I started covering these topics 6 months before Donald Trump got office, I reopened the account, and I was like, "Fuck, let's start investing." $162.34 per share today for Chevron. Yes, Chevron is successful like Johnson and Johnson, Coca-Cola, and Pepsi. A friend of mine was trying to get me to do the XRP thing as well. I'm not fucking with XRP because XRP is unstable right now. While it is a promising thing going into the future, XRP is supposed to be the trading platform. If you're going to buy and hold XRP in order for you to gain the whatever percentage profit for being the baseline for XRP, then you can go for it. But getting XRP is a growth stock invest style scenario. It is not going to having X do XRP right now. Separating your money is a good idea. Yes, it is. That's why I'm giving you multiple oil companies. So if you put your money on Chevron, Shell, Exxon, um, some of these other companies I'm about to go into, then you would have different oil companies. But the ones that I have at the bottom of the screen, if you're looking at us from 16 by 9, or the ones that I have at the top of the screen that you're looking at on a 9 by 16, those are going to be the three best ones, which is going to be Shell, Chevron, and ExxonMobil. that you can invest in related to oil, and the stock market is going to do its thing. He said, but in another 2.5 payments, it's paid off. I just broke my foot, so it. I know I kind of got set back. Oh yeah, well, you wasn't you wasn't paying you wasn't paying attention to investing when you fucked your foot up. So even if you don't have the access to the income because you're still trying to pay off your truck. But when you pay off your truck and you're not spending $1,000 a month on a truck note, you can spend $1,000 a month on investing in these stocks. And if you're paying $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. In 10 years, that's $120,000 plus interest. You can find yourself with 15% or higher interest rates off of $100,000 worth of stock, getting 15 to $20,000 a year off of that stock. And if you're running that for 10 more years, with you adding an extra 20, 15, $20,000 for the stock on it, you're adding almost $30,000 onto it every year, which means that over 10 years, you'd be adding $300,000 on it, which means you should have a $500,000 inside of 20 years if you're only putting away $1,000 a year. But you might have more than that depending on how much money you're putting away versus the high interest that you're investing in, which means that you could potentially end up at close to $800,000 or at least $700,000, which means that you would still be making way more money off of your stock portfolio and dividends than what you're making off of your daily job. 30% of this, 30% for that, 30% in cash. That's a good way to split it up. 10% to God? No. Okay, so here's the funny part. You're not giving 10% of your money to God. You will never, ever give 10% of your money to a God because, one, if you believe in the Christian Bible, God doesn't care about money. God doesn't care about assets. God doesn't care about uh, 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 material possessions. Has no need for it. You're giving 10% to the church to make you feel better, and you're calling it in the name of God. And if you're giving it to a church that's not giving it to the people, you're giving it to somebody like that one pastor that held everybody hostage for $45,000, or the other pastor that was living in a $52 million mansion with 3 private jets because he didn't want the devil to come over him because he had anger management problems and he didn't want to fly coach like the rest of his congregation. You're not giving 10% to God. You're giving 10% to a entity that is going to profit off of you giving them 10% of your income. So technically, you should do 30% here, 30% there, 30% in cash. Well, technically, 40 to 60% in real estate, 20 to 30% in the stock market, and then the other remaining amount should be accessible in bank accounts and in cash. Where if power goes out, you still have money, but when the power doesn't go out, you can do foreign exchanges because you can easily wire transfer something in your bank account, but it's hard for you to deposit $30,000 into a bank. They're going to ask some questions. Where'd you get this from? You know what I mean? If you're going to give 10% to somebody, you want to give 10% to your kids, you want to give 10% to your grandkids, you want to donate 10% to public schools so that you can get a tax write-off on that. Donate 10% to the public libraries or something like that. If you're going to donate 10% somewhere, don't donate it to God. Donate it to somebody who can benefit from it. Donate the 10% to the homeless people that are living on the side of the street. Donate 10% to the shelters and nonprofit organizations that are trying to build an environment that homeless people can come back off of instead of leaving them homeless on the side of the road. Don't give your 10% to God. You know, I'm going to say no to that one. That's like the only part of your investment strategy I thought was flawed. It's more like about 98% cash for me. Yeah. You can change that method at any point in time and put 40% somewhere else, buddy. Yeah, I don't contribute nothing to churches. I do, however, buy homeless people food and help them out and stuff. That would be more effective. That would be more effective. Buy them some clothes, you know, very often. But again, that's when God tells me to. Exactly. Right. Because the work of the Lord is done through the acts of man. So when a man feel like buying a brother something, then he does. Italian oil company, we'll see. Now, Halberton and Schlumberg. These are two other companies that are involved in the situation. So let me give y'all these. Oh, and the oil field service sector. That's another one. That's another one. So I forgot all about these guys. The oil field service sector. Let me put this up here for y'all so that y'all can see what I got going on. Uh oh, he says sometimes Just a simple conversation. Sometimes just a simple conversation with somebody that is homeless is an act of God, and it helps them. Yes, it does. And never once did you spend a dollar in church. uh, I won't, but it sounds like I can though. Yeah, you could. You could. Um, Not to mention doing your daily deeds that God puts forth before you for helping people. Yeah, or you could just be a good person just for the sake of, because at the end of the day, it's not like you're going to get any closer to heaven by being nice to people. I mean, Corinthians 31 teaches you guys how to, well, Corinthians 1 through 31 teaches you how to behave and how to treat your neighbors, which is also in the Quran. But it really requires you to just pay attention to don't be a dick to other people so that they don't have a reason to be a dick to you. Common knowledge that we forget to use because in America we have the ability to disrespect people because what are they going to do? We're not in China. We're disrespecting people. They will take your house from you, you know. But we need that model here so that we can get some better behaved people. I'm looking MJ. I give directly like buying groceries. Right. Okay. Now, Halberton, Schlumberg, and the oil field service sectors. These are going to be the rebuilders because the third group to watch are the picks and shovels companies because you have the difference between the people who buy the picks and shovels and the people who actually make and sell the pick and shovels. Oil field service firms like Halberton Schlumberg and Baker Hughes. This is another one. These are the companies that will do the heavy lifting of that $183 billion rebuild because their services are essential for everything from fixing oil wells to drilling new ones. The sheer scale of the work is a potential multi-year revenue windfall for this particular sector. But the key word is potential. Service companies get paid later in the cycle, not in the beginning, only after the oil producers actually start spending money. So major contracts probably won't begin being signed and executive orders won't be executed until 2027 or 2028 at the earliest. So you guys have a pretty decent quantity of time to get your money together and start investing in some of these companies. Chevron, you can get your money now, but some of the other ones that are starting money soon. But they're also going to face some critical risks, such as getting paid, because they can't afford to wait years for a return like an oil producer can. They need stable contracts that a guarantee will help with and also pay the bills on time until the overall turnout happens. Michael says Halberton's a must have. It, these are the things that we find out. If y'all pay attention, y'all find ways to get a lot more money without having to put in so much work. Because just like I was saying, if you're putting, I said before, if you're putting away 40 grand a year, which is hard to do for some people, you can find yourself at $400,000 in 10 years plus interest. And if you're putting away $40,000 a year with more than 10% interest on that, you're averaging about 51,000 a year going away, which is a $500,000 in 10 years, $1.5 million in 20 years. But $40,000 a year means that you're putting away almost $3,000 a month. Not, some people, that's all they're making is $3,000 a month. When you start talking about putting away $1,000 a month, you got to be making more than $3,000 a month and living off of less than $2,000 a month in order for you to put that kind of money away. So on paper, these are good plans, but in actuality, it's a little bit tough to do. I've already died. I know where I go. I know where I go when I had my conversation with God. Oh, well, I was told I was going to hell, so I'm just not going to argue about it because all the fun happened in hell. Who? Supposedly all of the drug dealers are in hell and everything to that effect. So that means everybody gonna be smoking weed, drinking liquor, and having a good time. The all the strippers are in hell, right? All of the OnlyFans girls are in hell, right? All of the Backpage girls are in hell, right? So I mean, where are we going? Because didn't they say that the other guys, and when they die, they get the 72 versions? We can get like 72 sluts, and it's not as bad. Hmm. No, I'm just saying. He says buying a wasteland for all the trash. You don't need to buy a wasteland for all the trash, Michael, because that's what Venezuela is for. Dumping. You said, oh, America's gonna make them greater. Right. Right. What I'm saying is your everyday past people that are broken down on the side of the road and they'll hitchhike, etc. And I always answer that because God put those people on my path to help them. Well, actually, He probably put you on their path so that you can help them because they were suffering and you were their guiding light. And I'm not going to tell you to change your ways. I think you should keep doing what you're doing. Whenever you have the opportunity to help somebody else, you should. Because if you're calling yourself a Christian and you're acting on the path of Jesus Christ and you're supposed to be not sacrificing yourself for the sake of somebody else, but when you have extra, you can share your extra with somebody else who has none. So if you have extra time and they need a little bit of time, you need to be able to give some of your time to them. And if you have extra effort and they need a little bit of effort, you give your effort to them. And if they need a little resource and you have extra resources, you should be able to give your extra resources to them. But that's a communist model. When do I give it straight to a person in need? Or when I do give it straight to a person in need, no God is involved. True, because the work has already been done. I don't care about brownie points with God. I already know where I'm going. I just answering the call that is put forth. These there's a reason that I meet those people. You're exactly right. And giving for the sake of giving, not for the sake of reward, is what the whole purpose of generosity is supposed to be about. You're not supposed to be giving hoping that you're going to heaven. You're not supposed to be giving hoping for the sake of a blessing. You're giving because you can, and you're giving because you know that the other person needs it. People still give selfishly because they don't want to be in a destitute position and somebody not help them. So to put it in the atmosphere, when they see people in a destitute position, they help those people the way they wish they would have gotten help when they were in a destitute position. And hopefully, the next time they end up in a destitute position, somebody is going to be kind enough to come and return the favor, even if it's not the person that they helped originally. But those people are putting out good faith effort into the atmosphere in hopes that karmic return will give them good faith effort in return when they're in their time of need. So, probably less than one third of giving is given just because you can. A lot of the times it's given for the sake of glory and praise, and a lot of times it's given with the expectation of some kind of return from either a god or some other source. Whether you admit it or not, that's how a lot of people operate because they believe that if I keep doing this, I'm going to end up in a good place. But that's an expectation. You should just be giving because you can. Now, back to the oil topic. Um, Given Venezuela's history, this is going to be a major hurdle because for investors, the service sector is a medium term play. This is going to be a bet that the initial stabilization will succeed and pave the way for the real building to begin, right? Um, while the pull of 300 billion barrels of oil is strong, the road to getting it is a minefield of risks. So for every optimistic project, there's a sobering reality check. The single biggest risk is political because the current situation with an interim government operating under United States oversight is extremely fragile. There's no guarantee of long term stability. The risk of a reversal of sanctions being reimposed or even future asset seizures can't just be dismissed. And this is why many in the industry still see Venezuela as high risk and potentially um, uninvestable without ironclad security guarantee from the United States government. He said, I never called myself a Christian, though. I just walk the path, and it always ends up in my favor in unforeseen ways. That's true. Whether you're religious, Christian, Catholic, Roman Catholic, Jewish, uh, Seventh Day Adventist, Muslim, whatever religious beliefs that you come from, the fact is that those individuals that claim to be acting in good faith in the name of the God or Jesus Christ that they worship. The fact is that the moral standard is that you're supposed to give because you can, not because you're going to benefit from it later. That it is what it is. That's what it's about. And it's going to be blind faith because you believe in what you have never seen, um, and you expect it to work out. And usually it does. As long as it's working out, you hang to it. When it stops working out, that's the true test of faith. Is it going to go the way you want it to go? Yeah, yeah. Not too many people think about that part. Then they say that everything bad that happens in their life, oh, that was a test of God. That's my trials and tribulations. No, a lot of that was just bad decision making that you got to recover from. Even when it doesn't work out, it always does. No, when it doesn't work out, it fucking sucks. And then you find a silver lining at the end of the fact that it fucking sucks. And you start working your way out of a big mistake, a bad hole, the wrong decision, the wrong turn. You learn from your mistake and then you pivot in another direction so that you don't go through that again. Because if you're in a bankruptcy, nobody gives you money to stop you from going bankrupt, but you do find a way to save some of your assets. You can say that you benefited from it down the line because now you don't have to work as hard to keep as much stuff, but no, you lost a shit ton of stuff. You just managed to keep some of it. Big difference. Now, there's a commodity price risk that's going to happen here, and the very success of the venture could hurt that commodity price because a flood of Venezuelan oil on the market will drive down global prices, which is beneficial for us. So if prices fall too far below the $50 to $60 per barrel range, the expensive process of extracting Venezuela's heavy crude oil becomes uneconomical. And this could choke off the long term investment need for real growth. He said, yeah, I've been bankrupt before. Hey, I'm just saying, I'm just calling it like it is, bro. I'm just calling it like it is. Because folks be like, oh man, even when it don't work, it work out. And you're not the only person that said that, so I ain't mocking you. I'm just saying, like, I had a lot of people come to me, oh, even when it don't work out, it work out in the end. No, a person that went homeless, they lost everything and they're homeless. And they'll be homeless for years. Just because you found a few good-hearted people along the way that kept you from suffering as much doesn't mean that it worked itself out in the back end. Your ass is still homeless until somebody give you an opportunity to stop being homeless no more. Now, once you find that opportunity to stop being homeless again, if you take on that opportunity, push to the extent, then more, and then you benefited from everything that you learned from the bad decisions that led you to the bankruptcy, to the homelessness, to the sleeping on the side of the road, where the decisions that you made, you had to endure that for years, and then the new opportunity that you took advantage of that led you on the uprising, the stock market of life. You learned from past mistakes. This is the shit I be talking about. This is the shit I be talking about. See, we ain't done yet. Damn it. We still here. We ain't done yet. Damn it. This shit keep messing with my internet. I don't have to call the motherfuckers in the morning. They done messed up half of the damn podcast over here. Hold on, let me see what's going on here. Oh yeah. We're up here. Okay. Now, what? That is everything is still on the up and up. It's still rocky road over here. All right. So the operational risks of the Venezuelan market is also going to be immense. Now, the $183 billion rebuild estimate is look, what is going on with the thing here? They got the comment section in an uproar. They did, see, this is what happened when T-Mobile be trying to fix the fucking towers in the middle of the night. These motherfuckers just turn some shit off. These motherfuckers just turning this shit off. What he said, Shenzhen Stock Exchange, the NDK Stock Exchange, quite a few, they make some money. Now, let's get into I had to get everybody back on because I'm sitting over here mad as hell. I was like, wait, why are we not? There we go. Why are we not flowing the way we was flowing a moment ago? Because T-Mobile be fucking with shit. They be touching touching with my damn towers in the middle of the night. Got my podcast flickering off. God dang it. They taking that off of my bill. I just saved $150 with that blackout during a live feed. I'm gonna call them first thing in the morning. I'm gonna call them overnight and be like, what the fuck? Now, the $183 billion rebuild estimate is just that, an estimate. So the project of this scale often has delays and cost overruns. So Venezuela's infrastructure is in such bad shape that the risk of unforeseen problems is incredibly high, explicitly high. And this is the long game. So the story of Venezuelan oil will be written over the next decade or more, not just the next few months. So for investors, the key takeaway is that Venezuela adds a huge layer of risk to any company involved. And the easy money from the initial headlines has likely already been made. There was a 1 to 2% increase in the oil of Venezuela, no, of Chevron when people were investing in Chevron. So the future returns will depend on the slow, hard work of the actual increased production and establishing stable political and legal frameworks. So the world's largest oil supply is now in play, but the final outcome is anything but certain. So if you would have bought into Chevron in December, you would have felt that 2% increase and then you could have sold. So at $168 a share, you would have got the dividend on it. You would have seen the 2% increase and you probably would have sold and got your $50 to $75 on top of the dividend return. But now, if you buy into it in January, the 2% is already factored into the price. So you're not going to really feel the increase unless you buy and hold. Um, so the world's largest oil chain is now in play, but the final outcome is anything but certain, right? So what we've witnessed is the seismic shift in global energy landscapes, the capture of Nicolas Maduro, and the assertion of the United States' influence over Venezuela's oil industry. And we have set a chain of events in motion that will be felt for years, if not decades to come. He said THQ or TQC. Look, I'm thinking about WWE. TQC. That's a good company to invest in as well. Now, we've seen how a surgical military strike created this new reality. We've look, and I wonder why do we do such good surgical military strikes in Venezuela to seize people that we want to apprehend, but we're murdering innocent Americans in Chicago and Minneapolis, Minnesota, when the people that are being killed are not the people that you're supposed to be apprehending. Answer me that. Did they just take the untrained guys and put them in uniform and send them out into the American streets, or was this just like to keep Americans distracted? We're gonna just put a bunch of soldiers out there, say that they're immigration, but really we're just gonna fuck with the poor people real quick because that's what it looks like. Now, we've looked at the tragic decay of an industry sitting on 300 billion barrels of oil for the largest period of time, and the staggering near $200 billion price tag to begin to rebuild this industry. This shift will create an economic order for American consumers and specialized Gulf Coast refineries. It could mean an era of cheaper energy, which means that our electric bills could potentially be cheaper, our fuel could be cheaper, and for U.S. and Canada shale producers, it signals a period of intense competition. Because while they open up the pipelines in the United States, if the exact same stuff coming out of Texas and Louisiana is coming out of Venezuela, we're going to have a hard competitor to ourselves because we own Venezuela and we own ourselves, and we're going to be competing against ourselves between the Venezuelan oil as far as jobs are concerned and the American oil as far as those same jobs. Now, for investors, the path is going to be tricky. Chevron is a clear short-term winner. So if you buy into it right now, whatever benefits they're going to have, you're going to have it because they have very few competitors with them at this moment. ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips hold long lottery tickets, and the oil field service industry will be waiting in the wings for a rebuilding project that's still years away. But this entire venture is balanced on a nice edge. It's a gamble that assumes political stability can be maintained and that hundreds of billions in private capital will flow into a historically dangerous market. The potential reward is immense. A secure long term supply of oil for the United States and a redrawing of the geopolitical map is going to happen. But for the risks, that's going to be just a very profound situation to observe. So, what do you guys think? Is the dawn of a new era of American energy dominance, or is it the beginning of a costly and complicated quagmire? Giggity, giggity. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you guys find this analyst and all the other analysts that we do on this show very compelling, make sure that you take the opportunity, if you haven't done so, to subscribe to the channel. But make sure you hit that like button and also hit those notification bells because we have shows going for the rest of the upcoming week that you can look over and see which ones you're going to definitely participate in if you're not capable of being here every day. So don't miss out on all of the deep dives that we have coming up that's going to be explaining how forces that are beyond our control are shaping the world that we make, save, and invest money in. Special shout out to Zombie Wild. He's asking what's going on here. Where for 2.5 hours we were talking about how to make, save, and invest money in oil based on the new political changes that happened in Venezuela. We also talked about hydrogen energy and other green energies, precious minerals, and other such things. And then we had a short excerpt about religious backgrounds and the belief of doing goodwill. So we've had a plethora of conversations in here, including somebody systematically throwing the Epstein list at the top of the hour into the conversation just for the sake of right next to the Epstein Island. So we covered a lot of stuff today. If you're interested in looking at everything that we had going for us, make sure that you watch the show from the beginning. Uh, we're probably going to edit out the first 10 to 15 minutes of it because that was just morning announcements. If you're interested in all of the investment opportunities we had in the first 15 minutes of the show, you should probably get it within the next 24 hours so that you have it. If not, if you join the membership, all of the information that I'm providing to all of the fans on the show should be put into the membership coming soon. So, like I promised Steven, like 4 days ago, I was going to get him this information. I have the number. I haven't even used it myself, but I'm going to be giving him the marketplace number for his free health insurance scenario, and then putting all the other information that we had talked about over the past week into the membership over the next few days. So everybody that's on the membership will be able to have access to that stuff. That's what we've been doing so far. That's what's been going on here. It's a live podcast that, even through all of the loss of network, has stabilized its way into providing you with a daily show that helps you make, save, and invest money and make better decisions in your personal life so that you can not only fix your business life, but you can also fix your personal life. With that being said, I want to thank you. I want to start by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. And then, fellas, since I give you guys this information to help you guys become higher value men, you need to find the things in your life that you know need to change and that is inside of your control. Then prioritize the necessary efforts that you need to make those changes and then navigate around things in your life that you cannot control. And ladies, while this is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can put forth the necessary effort into making yourself successful as well. You just need to find the things in your life that matter to you. Get your 20-year plan together. Start trying to save and invest money for your future. Find you a partner that's not wasting a bunch of money, but actually proactively putting money towards future success. And then stick with that partner. If you start looking for a man based on his character, not based on the deep pockets that he have or the quantity of capital in his wallet, you might find the right person for you. If you continue to behave based on shallow expectations and not based on actual growth, you're never going to grow yourself, and you're never going to find the type of relationship that you need, that you will benefit from, because the relationship that you are attracted to is not about growth. It is about stereotypes. And when you get off of those stereotypes, you will find yourself more successful. So, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night, if we can wrap this show up, because we still have everything lingering on the way it's been lingering
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.